Hey everybody, and thank you for joining me. I'm Glenn with GMP Travels, and today we're going to do something a little different. And I mentioned this in one of my earlier episodes. Is I was talking about doing cruise tips, cruise ideas, things like that. And I didn't want to get too in depth in there because there are so many of these out there. But um, I like to share my experience and some ideas about bookings and cruise lines and things like that. So this is specifically about cruises. And again, we've been on, if you haven't seen any of my earlier episodes, we've been on 27 cruises. We should have been on 28, 29, probably 30 by now, but COVID has kind of screwed that up. So, and if you know me, I love my coffee while I'm doing my shows. Good coffee too. So anyways, I'm going to break this up into two parts. This is going to be part one, only because I have a lot of tips on here and a lot to say about some of them, some of them just very short. And I'm going to throw in some pictures as we go, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about with cabins and stuff like that. Maybe some excursions, things you may want to do in port, things like that. So I'm probably going to do about 12 or 13 tips in this one. And then in part two, I'll do, 14 through 24 or 13 through 24, whatever. I may even add more by then. But anyways, again, doing 27 cruises. There's friends of ours that have done 50, 60 cruises. And again, they love cruises as much as we do, obviously. And they could probably give a lot more tips. But we've been on a lot, as compared to a lot of people, and some of them like Carnival we're platinum with, and that probably should have been one of the tips. Is being platinum with that kind of gives us an edge when we decide where to cruise, or kind of pushes in a certain direction because we get perks for being platinum. And it isn't a deal changer. We do love some of the other lines we've been on. We've been on Norwegian. We've been on Carnival, 19 cruises with Carnival, 4 with MSC, 2 with Norwegian, 2 with Princess, and 1 with Celebrity. And we've had great cruises. We've had some that weren't so great, but still had a good time on all of them. Anyways, cruise tips. And I think the appropriate place to start would be bookings. There's so many places you can go online and book, and we've tried different things. We've worked with planners directly at Carnival. There's a guy there that I even email every once, so I'll just say hi, how you doing? And they're called PVPs, personal vacation planners. Really good to work with. We found though the pricing and discounts and onboard credits, those are typically the same across the board. So you get Norwegian directly with them, or maybe you go to some different travel agencies, you're going to see the same price. What you don't get typically if you work directly with the cruise lines is some added perks. So the cruise or the vacation planners, all these different places, they get the wholesale price basically of a cruise cabin, so they make money when you sail. And if a lot of you people are booking with different people, you think, wow, they're making a lot of money booking all these cruises. COVID has killed that. Not killed it, but it's really hurt that industry because a lot of them are work from home, already anyways as your travel consultants or cruise consultants. And they don't get paid until you actually go on the cruise. So COVID has kind of really screwed that up. But there's a lot of them out there. We've used, I don't think we've used Expedia. We've used Cheap Cruises, which is what we're kind of with now. Some of the people that I worked with on there are gone, more than likely because of COVID, and they just weren't making money. But they give added perks. So the more cruises I book through them, I'll get an extra $25 onboard credit, 50, 75, 100. I think we're up to 100 now, based on the amount of cruises we book through cheapcruises.com. Again, there's a lot of them out there. Cruises.com, You can go through I think Travelocity and all these other different places. They do also book cruises. And we found for us the best deals we found were with cheapcruises.com. Not the best website. I think they could do a lot of work on enhancing that, making it a little bit better. But it works, and we usually try and stick with the same person. Like I said, we haven't been able to reach her, so we think she's gone. So we call whoever we get. They also have onboard credit through the cruise ships. A lot of times, Cheap Cruises has discounted deposits, like for $25. So you can book a cruise for next year, pay $25, and then when you get in with a certain period of time, you have to start paying it off. Typically, it's a chunk. You pay the actual real deposit from the cruise line once you get closer, and then you got to pay the cruise off. And it used to be 60 days before the cruise or 30 days before the cruise. I can't remember. We've been cruising since 2003. And you wouldn't have to pay until the 60 to 30 days your entire cruise off, besides the deposit. And now they've extended that out. I think some of them are now up to 120 days. They want to get their money. And that's fine. I get it. I'd rather be paid for and be done. Other than COVID, we've never had any booked cruises canceled except for one. And that was, I believe, it might have been the Seaside or the Divina that we were on with MSC. We had a wedding, our son's wedding, and then a week later we were supposed to go on a cruise. Well, there was a hurricane, and that canceled the cruise. And I don't remember what year, but I'll look that up. So bookings, there's a lot of different things you want to look at other than who are you going to book with. And some of you people out there maybe like to book through a travel agency that will do your flights and do your hotels and do your car rentals and do your cruises. That's great. Some of them are really good. We've worked with some of those in the past, but I find that we tend to get cheaper pricing based doing it a la carte. So we do it ourselves. We do Southwest. Typically is what we fly. We try and find direct flights. It's usually the best price for our flights. So when we book, there's a lot of things you want to take into consideration. And again, it's all those things I mentioned, your hotel, where are you going to stay? When you book a cruise and you go on a cruise, you don't, unless you don't have to fly, you don't want to have your flight the same day as the cruise going down. We have coming back, because if something happens, we get stuck down there. For us, it's not a huge deal. But going down, you don't want to miss the ship. So we always fly the day before, and we get a hotel. So those are additional costs. If you live in Florida, you live somewhere near a cruise port where you can jump on a cruise pretty quick, then obviously you're not worried about a flight. Now, we have friends that live in Florida that stay in a hotel because it's a big party. And I don't mean a big all-out, drunken party. It's a fun time getting together the night before the cruise. And so we enjoy that, and they come in, they'll stay in the hotel, they add that cost. It's not a big deal. They get points as much as they travel, but some of them. So our hotels, we try and find somewhere near the cruise port. There's different times a year. Florida is very expensive in the winter. So January, February, March, very expensive to get a hotel. Usually a lot more expensive for flights. Houston or Galveston is not. In winter, you can get a reasonable flight and a reasonable hotel room. And a lot of times we'll just stay near the airport, and we'll take our transfer in the morning then to the ship. We'll find somewhere close. Most of them are pretty close to whatever airport we're flying into. We fly into Fort Lauderdale a lot because that's where Southwest went. And from my understanding now, they do fly into Miami. So we would a lot of times stay the night in Fort Lauderdale, mostly because we come in late. If we come in early enough, we may book a hotel room in Miami so we can go down to Bayside Market and stuff like that. Again, all that was pre-cruise, so I'm not certain how all that area is right now. We haven't been on a cruise since February 2020, and that was before COVID. So a lot of what I'm telling you is prior to COVID. So I don't know how cruising is going to look with vaccinations and some of them now requiring that if you cruise, you have to be vaccinated. That's fine. I would rather not get the vaccine, but if it means getting on a cruise ship, I'll do it. And so will my wife. So we look for flights the day before. We look for good prices. Sometimes, especially in the winter, the hotel rooms, it depends on what we can get on the hotel rooms. It might be cheaper to fly in 2 days before and stay an extra night in a hotel, and the same thing the day after the cruise. So if you're flying back on a Monday, Mondays are typically more expensive because business people are flying a lot. So if we come back in, our cruise comes back in on a Monday, we may not fly back. We may stay in a hotel on a Monday night, and then fly back on Tuesday because Tuesdays are generally cheaper. So those things you want to consider when you're booking, as far as travel is concerned, your flight, what ship you want to go on, where do you want to go out of, and based on the time of year and the cruise lines will vary price-wise dramatically. Celebrity, those lines tend to be quite a bit more expensive. Norwegian's generally more expensive. Now, most of them or all of them now pretty much include a beverage package when you book. I know Carnival just started doing that as well. So when you're booking, you want to look at those things. What ship, if price doesn't matter to you, then, by all means, it doesn't matter. But if you're on a budget, when you're booking the ship, your price is part of that package, and it is for us because we cruise twice a year, so we keep an eye on price. But your flights and your hotel and stuff like that all counts into that booking. The second part of booking that you generally will look at is where does the ship go. So maybe you've identified your cruise line. Do you want to go Eastern Caribbean? And this is going to be not specific to the Caribbean because we've cruised out of the West Coast, out of Long Beach in California, and we've done many Caribbean islands. But maybe this will apply to you too if you're sailing out of the Mediterranean or something like that, or doing a riverboat cruise. Your destinations are important. For the Caribbean, for us, we love the Eastern Caribbean, we love the Southern Caribbean, and we love the Western Caribbean. If you do a back-to-back cruise, a lot of times the ships will alternate each week. So, I think the ship that we're on in the fall, the Mardi Gras Carnival, we're going on in September if cruising happens. And I think 1 week it's doing Western Caribbean, the other one's Eastern Caribbean. So we get a taste of both. Love Southern. We have only been on a couple Southern, and one of them that we went down to Aruba. Aruba, beautiful. So those are things to consider booking. Where are you going? What are the islands like? And now with COVID, what are the restrictions? So very important. And I wouldn't hesitate booking a cruise. It's going to happen. If not, they're all going to go bankrupt and there won't be any cruising left. So it's going to happen. Most of them, I think, are set to start sailing in June. Of course, we've heard that before. It was last October, then it was November, then it was December, then it was January, and now we're looking at June. So who knows? But I wouldn't hesitate booking. We've had two cruises cancel now. So we've had to keep adjusting what ship we're going on and when we're going. And so we've paid, and up to now, I think we have 600 onboard credit per cabin we're on a back-to-back cruise. So $1,200 in onboard credit for the 2 weeks is pretty good, and that would probably cover most of our alcohol and whatever we buy on the ship. So the next part, this is the next tip as far as the cabin, and I'm going to get a little deeper in the cabin and some ideas and cool things you can do in the cabin to save space and stuff like that, things that are more convenient. But cabins is also something you want to think about before you're booking, when you start looking at it. Interior is typically the cheapest. You can get ocean view. Some cruise ships now I don't think offer ocean view. It's either interior or balcony. So balcony would be the next choice, then junior suites, and then suites, and all the way up to your presidential suite. That very expensive, but hey, if you want to spend the money, it's great. Cabins, there's things in the cabin that we know now that are important. You only have so many electrical outlets. Some of the newer ships now have USB ports at the desk. They have USB ports by the bed. But typically there's only one or two electrical outlets. So in the cabin, one of the important things is bring a power strip or multi-outlet. They don't let you do surge protectors. So it needs to be a plain old straight up multi-outlet power strip. Especially if you're bringing cameras and things like that, you want to have plenty of place to charge. Again, most of the ships now have USB ports. The power strip that I have, it's not a power strip, it's a power block. You'll plug into an outlet. It's got three regular outlets on there, and I'll show you a picture of it. Two or three outlets on it. Plus, it also has USB ports, so we can just plug stuff right into that, and it helps with having all those block chargers plugged in. Cabins also, we have some. Carnival's got great space. The Norwegian, I think, and Princess had pretty good space. Celebrity had good space. MSC had the worst. Hardly any storage room in there. Very little closet, very few shelves, and I think maybe a couple drawers. And if you travel with my wife, she brings a lot more than I do. And I know she needs her hair stuff. She needs a lot more choices when it comes to shoes and dressing up for dinner, stuff like that. So not a lot of room in the cabins. Generally, like I said, some have more than others. We also use to hang like hats and stuff up. We have these magnetic hooks. They're great. I've mentioned those in previous episodes. Also, we have a over-the-door shoe rack that we use, and it's fantastic. We put all kinds of our bathroom stuff in there, brushes and stuff like that. Down the bottom, I'll put flip-flops and shoes. Excuse me. That saves us room in the closet, and it's fantastic. They're inexpensive. They're mesh. They're very lightweight. They fold up flat. They go into like the front side of your suitcase, one of the pockets. So love that. Door decorations. Some people will walk right by their door because it's just, trying to remember the cabin number, things like that. We put, we did our cabin, and our neighbors and our friends, we travel a lot, go on cruises a lot together. And we decorated our door, put Ohio State stuff on there. As you can see, I'm an Ohio State fan, and I've worn some of the stuff before, but we decorated their door too without them knowing it. And here's a picture of that. And it's pretty funny. And maybe I'll explain later the night monkey part. But if you're a Marvel fan and if you watched Spider-Man where he goes to Europe, you'll understand the night monkey reference. So anyways, it's kind of neat. You can do that for birthdays and things like that. And you get magnets. Don't buy tape stuff or glue anything to the walls or to the doors, because if you damage it, you're going to have to pay for the repairs. So everything we put on there is magnetic. It's pretty cool. You peel right off. They're flat. They throw right back in your bag. So again, another one of my tips is we were talking about with bookings is the cruise lines. Every cruise line has different perks. The cruise lines, Celebrity, the one we were on, had no water park and stuff like that. They had pools and they had game rooms for kids, but there's very few kids on there. And then the extreme would be now that they have race tracks. Carnival, the one we're going on in the fall, the Mardi Gras has a roller coaster on it, and I think it seats 2 people, and it does, it's a short roller coaster, but it swings out over the ocean stuff. It looks pretty cool. So look into cruise lines for different perks, different things, different ideas to where you want to go. Again, that's, I know, kind of goes back to bookings, but I already talked about cabin types, destinations. Destination, I brought up a little bit. This is more about what do you want to do when you get into port? Where are you going? If you're going to Mexico, Cozumel, you can do water related excursions. We did one once that was it was one of those big cigar boats, and it seated probably about 40 people, and you had to strap in, and they went very fast over to Passion Island, or Isla de Passion. Quick note on that. That's where the Mayans used to go to get pregnant. It was an island of passion, of fertility. And they don't do that anymore, as far as I know. But took us over there. We got into this bay, and they started doing 180s in there, and the boat would whip around, and the water would come up and just soak in. It was extremely fun. If you're into those things, you're into something a little bit more adventurous, there's a lot to do out there. Depends on where you're going, depends on the island and so forth. If you want to go see Mayan Ruins, great place, Cozumel. Now it takes, I think, an hour and a half to get, because they ferry you over to the mainland where the ruins are at. And so keep those things in mind. Beaches, if you're a beach person and you want to lay out on the beach in sun and get in the water, that's, my wife and I love that. We do that a lot. Snorkeling, I love snorkeling. We have our own snorkeling sets. And we usually bring them. Sometimes we may not bring the fins, especially if we know we're going on an excursion where they offer snorkeling. I want my own mask and my own snorkel. It's a dry snorkel. So we may just bring the mask and the snorkel and leave the fins at home, because they do add weight and they take up room. Golfing. I know friends that when we get to certain islands, they have great golfing, and it's inexpensive, and they'll do a golf excursion. You can do a lot of these things with the cruise line, and you can do things on your own. And I think with COVID, they were talking about any excursions now you do will have to be through the cruise line, because they have to make sure that, that it's safe as far as the virus is concerned. So you're not bringing the virus onto the island, and they're not from the island giving it to you. I think crap's going to happen, but anyways, so research that. There's a lot of different sites on here, and that's another one of my tips. There's cruise critics and things like that you can go on and read forums about. You can join roll calls for your specific ship, and that's how we met a lot of our great friends that we cruise with, is on Cruise Critic. We did a roll call back in 2009. It was actually 2008, about a year before the cruise happened. And we got to know quite a few people, and we've remained excellent friends with them. I mean, they're like family now, and we get together with them when we can, and we cruise with them when we can, and it doesn't always work out time-wise, when we can take the time off, or they can take time off. But I think in our initial cruise, we had like 80 people, and maybe I'm thinking too much, but there was a lot of people that we met. And we, like I said, we stayed friends with a lot of them. Anyways, do your research, go on those sites, Cruise Critic, there's a bunch of others, find them. YouTube, you can go on there, you can research islands that you're going to once you've booked, and look at things to do. And again, you're going to have to check with the cruise line to find out what's available, and again, what their policy is as far as doing excursions, and what the island's policy is. So anyways, cash is very expensive to get on the ship. You typically can go to the front desk. You can get, if you need a couple $100 in cash, you can get it there. It's a one-time fee, and it's generally cheaper than the ATM. I think the ATM is $6 or $7 now, $6.50 for each transaction. So bring some cash with you. When you embark, you're going to be giving your baggage to the porters. Tipping, not mandatory, but it is suggested, and $1 per bag is the best to do. And I do sometimes a couple of dollars more than $1 per bag. And they take care of your bags. I want to make sure my bag gets on the ship, and when I get back, they're there waiting when you take your bags off the carousel. Once you debark from the ship, they're going to pile them up, take them out. You can carry your own if you want, but I usually have them wheel it out. It's worth the $5, $6, $10, whatever you're going to give them. So cash is necessary. Some small bills necessary. You don't have to use cash in the casino. You can. Usually what we do is we just use our Sail and Sign card, and just keep a tab on that, because it could be really easy to rack that up, and then you're going to be shocked at the end of the cruise, especially if you're losing money. So cash is important. Documentation, before you get on the ship, before you leave home, hugely important, do not put your passport, and you can use a birth certificate too, but you can't, a driver's license doesn't get you on a ship. You have to have a birth certificate or a passport. Usually you let them know when you check in online before you even get to the point of doing the cruise, and usually it's 30 days before, you have to tell them what you're using. You're using birth certificate or passport. And your birth certificate can't be a carbon copy. It has to be, they call them carbon copies anymore. Can't be a copy, has to be one with the race seal on it. Don't put your documentations in your checked-in luggage for both the ship and or for the airlines. Too many times I heard of people, the airlines losing the bag, they get to port, they can't get on the ship. The whole family's ready to get on the ship, and the one person can't get on because they don't have their passport or their birth certificate. So always keep it with you on your carry-on. These are things, make a list before you leave on the cruise, for the cruise, when you're at home, of critical things. Put it on your refrigerator, put it somewhere where you can see it, so when you're ready to walk out that door to go to the airlines, you're double checking for your passport, for your cruise documents, and all that stuff that you've printed out. So yeah, passport's important, and you're going to need your driver's license when you get off the ship in ports. So to get back on the ship, you're going to need your driver's license to show who you are and your sail and sign card. And a sail and sign card is a card that, if you've never cruised before, it's a little card you get. And here's a picture of it. That you use that throughout the ship to open your door to your cabin, to keep your lights on in the cabin. There's a little slot that you put the card in. Some of the older ships may not have that. To purchase for drinks, things like that, you need to always have that sail and sign card on you. So, but you need that to get back to get off the ship and to get back on the ship. So critical stuff. Wi-Fi on ships. If you're like me and you need to work sometimes while you're on a cruise, I'm in the communication business, and I always get that one person that needs a big quote done while I'm gone and while I'm on vacation, and they need it now, not when I get back. So, especially if I'm gone for 2 weeks, I have to keep up with the business. So, Wi-Fi typically on the ships is slower, a lot slower than what you're dealing with at home. So if you're expecting to vlog or do some stuff in there and upload some major stuff, it's going to take forever. If you do that, if you need to do those things, a lot of times wait till you get into port. Find out from the crew where the best place is to use Wi-Fi, because they get off and they use the Wi-Fi in port where it's free. You may buy a cup of coffee, sit in a cafe, and upload your documents. But I don't think I've ever done that. I think the Wi-Fi on the ship has been sufficient for what I need. If I'm sending anything, it's a Excel document, and usually very small. So, and they go pretty quick. Talk about multi-outlets with USB ports. Hooks are important. Those things, again, will save space, and they're convenient. So, shoe rack, I talked about that. The next thing, a quick conversation about is the port. When you get into port, typically you're either going to dock at a dock or you're going to tender. And what that means, the tender is they'll have boats that go back and forth from shore, because they may have some barrier reef that they don't want to destroy that to get passengers in to a dock. So boats that don't have such a deep draft, they'll ferry back and forth to the docks and from the boat. Keep in mind your time when you get off the ship. Make sure you're on ship time, because they're going to tell you when they're leaving. And if you have an hour difference on your watch, you'll either get back to the boat early, which is not a problem, or you may miss the boat, especially if you're out doing some excursion somewhere and you're not worried about time because you think you've got an extra hour and you don't. So that's very important, and that goes into the dock and porting, because before you leave that ship, make sure you know what time the ship is on and make sure you're on ship time. we've seen people miss the boat. We've seen them running to the ship, and we call them runners. Fun to watch, but you don't want to be that person missing the boat. In Grand Cayman, we one time came, I think, within 24 minutes of missing the boat. And that was out of 27 cruises, that was the first time. I'm always give us an hour. So we may be back to ship an hour, or at least to the port. If it's a docked port, and the ladies want to do a little bit of additional shopping around the port, because usually they have, booths and things, or stores where you can go in and do some shopping. If the ship's right there and the time's right, and you've got an extra half an hour once you get back to the port to do some shopping there as well, by all means. But I always give myself that cushion to make sure. And again, we were stuck in traffic in Grand Cayman for a long time, and we left ourselves plenty of extra time. So once we got back to the port, we had to hit, that is a tender port, so we had to hit the boat and get back to the ship. We didn't have any time to shop around in Grand Cayman. So very important to know before you get off, is a dock port, is it a tender port? And the reason why, generally, the night before, sometimes you may have to reserve ahead of time tickets to get on the tender. We missed getting on an island because we didn't know that they required tickets to get on the tender, and it was to the private island for, I believe it was the Norwegian Breakaway. Trying to remember, sorry. But by the time they got to our ticket, it was like 1 PM. We're supposed to leave at 3. We just decided to stay on the ship, enjoy the peace and quiet, because most people were off the boat on the private island. And we enjoyed ourselves anyways, but we missed that opportunity getting off and enjoying the beach. So again, tours, I'm not certain how they're going to work. Check with once you start looking at cruise lines, start looking at their COVID policies. Most of them have it on their main page. You can click on it. They'll tell you what's going to happen with that. So this is the last one I'm going to do in this segment. I'm running a little long on there because I got long-winded on bookings. On the ship, dining choices, there's a lot of them. And that's one of the main reasons we like cruising. Aside from being out on the ocean, love the ocean, and love cruise ships. Dining options, you have your complimentary dining that comes with your purchase of your cruise line. So your main dining room, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Breakfast and lunch typically on a ship the dining rooms are only opened on sea days and not port days. Dining room at night is always open. And again, those are complimentary. Usually there's a wide variety of food on their menus that you'll find you like. Carnival and a couple of the other ones, but Carnival specifically has a pretty good everyday menu. So they have every day something different, and then in a section they have something that they do same every day. So you could get a strip steak every day if you wanted to, or a certain kind of ribs or something like that. That if you don't like what they have that day on that menu, you have something else to pick from. A lot of times what they have on the menu in the main dining room, they'll also have on the buffet. Not all cruise lines does that. Carnival does that a lot. So what you can get in the dining room, you can find up on the buffet. Of course, you're serving yourself, but lunch and dinners, a lot of times buffet. Most of the buffets, Carnivals, generally 99% of the time, I love Carnival buffet. They're usually pretty good. The Norwegian buffet, fantastic. MSC's good. I think the choices could be better, but it's still good. Great pizza on MSC. Princess is Carnival brand, so the way they set up their buffet and the food type of food stuff like is very similar. Excuse me. So also check dress code because some ships, I think it was Celebrity, the first night, most ships, because you may not get your luggage till late, most ships don't enforce dress codes the first night, but they will the second, third, and fourth night, how many ever nights you're on the ship. So slacks typically, you can wear jeans. Most of them now are okay with jeans. Sorry. Most of them are okay with jeans and a button-down shirt. I'll wear that sometimes on a cruise, but I'll look nice. I'll wear a nice pair of shoes with it. For years, all I ever did was really nice slacks, really nice shirt. They have Elegant Night where I always will wear a suit. I've never worn a tux, but even then on Elegant Night, some ships don't require a tie. Celebrity, they flagged me at the door the first night. I was wearing shorts. And I was wearing Docker shoes. They were nice shoes, but they said, the next night's coming up, make sure you're dressed properly. So some of them are a little bit stricter on that. Some of them, some Carnival ships we've been on, we've seen people come in shorts and flip-flops. You're not supposed to have open-toe shoes. We've seen people in tank tops. I check the dress code if that's the way you want to eat. I'm a big fan of looking nice in the dining room, and the ladies usually look nice. They're always dressed up in dresses and stuff like that. So it's usually the guys that tend to be a little bit of slobs. And I think if you don't want to dress up, go to the buffet. Serve yourself, things like that. But I think if you're in the nice dining room, you should at least appear nice. That's my opinion. You can do whatever you want. Specialty dining. Those are usually some pretty good choices. The steakhouses on Carnivals, I don't think we've ever had a bad steak or a bad experience in a steakhouse. We did have one of them that took forever to get the food. And I wouldn't call that a bad experience. It just took a long time. But the food was great. We typically will do at least one night a specialty dining. We didn't for years because we were satisfied with what was in the dining room. And then a bunch of our friends were going to steakhouse, so we decided to join. And ever since then, we decided, you know what, we can treat ourselves one night. And it's an upcharge. I think Carnival's $35 now it used to be $25, went up $30, $35 now, and it could be higher, I don't know. But so the steakhouse, we've done ones that were seafood, specialty dining. Again, all these are upcharge places. There's a lot of other places too around the ship that aren't specialty dining where you can get burgers. Carnival, and again, they have Guy Fieri burgers, absolutely fantastic. We love that, and all the ships now I think have it. When they started, it was called Carnival 2.0. They started adding the Blue Iguana bar, Red Frog bars, the Blue Iguana Cafe. Where you could get tacos and burritos and things like that. And you can get breakfast, a Mexican-style breakfast there as well. So you have choices all over the place. A lot of times it may not be Guy Fieri burgers, depending which cruise line you go on, but there's typically some kind of pizza and burger and sandwich place that's near the pool areas, near the bars outside. Inside, you've got your coffee cafes. Those are typically an upcharge unless you have a drink package. So when it comes to dining, look at the ships. Again, when you're going back to number one, when you're booking, what's important to you? If food's important to you, start looking at a line specifically and then start seeing what their dining options and stuff are. You get on the ship, it may not be what you expect. It may be better than what you expect. If you're new to cruising, go into your first cruise with an open mind. Don't be, I expected to have, prime steak at dinner in the dining room, and you're on a Carnival ship, and it turned out to be choice, and it ruined your whole cruise. Kind of goofy, but trust me, I've run into people like that, and so what you want, if you want a higher quality, go to find that line and do review research. Typically, I don't always buy into the reviews because typically a person who does a review was not happy, and so it forced them to go do a review. I'm doing reviews now of good and bad because this is what I want to do. I want to do, I want to do some vlogging and get better at it. But so I'm going to end this one here. And if you have questions about anything I talked about already, please ask in the comments or make a comment about it. It's something you'd like to see a little bit different in my formatting. I'm trying not to keep these too long because too long loses people. But and so if you have questions about this, you have questions about booking, I have questions about cabin types, what's in the cabins based on ships we've been on. And I think maybe one of the times too, I'll go through and I'll highlight every ship we've been on and give you a little insight to each one. Some of them don't even exist anymore. During COVID, they sold off some ships for scrap, like the Imagination, beautiful ship, small ship. Had a great time on there. Basically, did 3 cruises on it, but may not be important to you for that. But any questions, please ask. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you aren't a subscriber already, so you'll know when I have new content out. And hit the like button, very important, and hit the subscribe button. Did I say the subscribe button? No, hit the notification button, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Now we got them all covered. So see you on the next one, part 2 of cruise tips and some ideas. And we'll see you then. Thanks, and see you next time.